It's midnight, and we open on a cloaked figure sitting atop the walls of Tayvale. He's holding a glowing red stone that he holds close to his chest for warmth, but he's still shivering against the cold autumn night. Suddenly, he sits up, nearly dropping his stone. He pulls a dented brass telescope out from underneath his cloak and holds it up to his eye. We follow his gaze to see that there is a carriage approaching the city, with two figures sitting up front. One is bundled up in rags, hiding all of their features, and the other hides their face beneath a wide-rimmed wizard's hat. The man jumps to his feet, and he rushes through a nearby door. He practically falls down the spiral staircase, and while doing so, he pulls a silver flintlock pistol from a bandolier around his chest. He bursts through the door at the bottom, holding the pistol up, just to see the carriage rush right past him. His hand wavers, still looking for the perfect shot, before he tosses the gun into the mud at his feet in frustration. He takes a moment to compose himself before he pulls at a chain around his neck, revealing a dangling conch shell. He brings that up to his hood and whispers, "They're here." Hi everybody, welcome to Whack-A-Roll and our first campaign arc, Vagabonds. My name is Luke and I will be your GM today.
Hello, I'm Tom and I will be playing the Half-Elf Highwayman Faelark.
Hi, I'm Dora, or Dee, and I'm playing the sweetest boy, Phillipe.
And I'm Al, and I'm playing the druid human old lady, Yaga.
Okay, and with that, let us get started. So, we are going to start this off with individual character scenes to introduce the audience to your wonderful little characters. And we're going to do this in the order that I have them written down in my notes. So, we are starting with Phillipe.
Ooh.
That's you, isn't it?
Yes.
So, I think that we kind of start with the sound of a church bell ringing out to indicate the end of the school day. And what we see this shot of a bunch of kids running out of the church building in the middle of the city of Tayvale. This quite run down, a little bit grotty. There's maybe a fine mist of rain falling. And we go inside the church and we see Phillipe sitting alone in a chair outside an office. Tell us what Phillipe looks like.
So Phillipe he's a small boy around the age of sort of 10 or 11. He's got nice little pointy damp ears. He's got cute little chubby cheeks. He's sort of he likes to wear lots of layers with loads of pockets, and in all the pockets are bursting out bits of paper and some pens, and he's probably sitting there scribbling some sort of drawing down on one of his many pads he keeps on hand. And to top it all off, he has a very fetching mullet to complete the whole look.
It's not what I was expecting.
Hey, it's beautiful and it keeps the hair out of the way when he's painting, so it's...
You know what else does? Shaving your head.
But then he won't have beautiful long hair.
Okay.
We've talked about your intro multiple times now. I've talked about how I've walked you through character creation and all this. I have never realised it was a practical mullet. Phillipe knows why he is there.
Yeah.
Here you are sitting outside the office of Father Aaand, who is the leader of this church and also the headmaster of the school that Phillipe attends. What did you do, Phillipe?
So, Phillipe likes to copy things, and he likes to try and replicate things to be perfect. So it started off just as homework, he'd copy some people's homework and he'd copy it to the precise detail of handwriting, any sort of smudge marks, any crossings out. It would be so perfect you cannot tell which was the original one, and even whose is who. But, homework's a bit boring and he's sort of mostly interested in art and stuff, and so he copied a religious text.
Yeah. So it will have been this ancient religious scroll that's been said to be passed down from saint to saint, And Philippe's always known it's there. It's probably like in a glass like display case in the main church, but that is famously locked. It only gets taken out maybe once a year during like a ceremony of some sort, and you pick that lock and you done try to copy it. Now, inside the office that you are sitting outside are 3 people. Father Aaand, we've already talked about, the headmaster of the school, Captain Grenell, the captain of the city's militia, and your carer, Auntie Lenora. Would you please give me a perception check?
Yes. And it's just 11.
11 is your wisdom plus 0.
Yes.
Ooh, sucks for you.
He's not a very smart boy.
Yeah.
That's why he's in trouble. Oh.
Silly wee thing.
I think that maybe like we're going to take this like failed roll as, rather than it being you cannot hear them, because I think especially your Auntie Lenora is getting very heated and yelling a lot.
She's probably
like
screeching at them.
Yeah, and this is the exact sort of thing I'm talking about. It's not that you can't hear them, it's that you are focusing on something else to get your mind off of the trouble you're in. As from behind that door you can hear like, expelled, you can't, and then like, you know, there's like a calming like, please lower your voice, whatever. And then after all that, like, you know, maybe like half an hour it feels like you've been here, your Auntie Lenora kicks the door open like,
This is how we know we're in a fantasy world, because the teachers aren't being blamed for the bad behaviour.
Oh, that's right, the feels.
It took 2 minutes, I already got vaguely political.
Hashtag too real.
She's your Auntie Lenora is a human woman in her early 50s, and she definitely has resemblance to Phillipe. She has like matching chubby cheeks and like matching colours of eyes and hair.
She also has a mullet.
Oh, okay, she also has a mullet.
Great.
Although hers is starting to grey around the edges a little bit.
At the temples.
Yeah, you know that she uses like a little bit of magic here and there to make herself appear a little bit younger than she actually is, but she wears like this, she has like a wardrobe full of like these garishly bright dresses.
I love the implication that there are like magical cosmetics now.
Of course there would be. Like, minor illusion is like a cantrip, and I do not see a world where magic is a thing that people with that spell don't just go, my eyes are blue now.
Fantastic. Prepare to have a different eye colour every session, everyone.
Behind her are the 2 men of the building, like Aaand and the captain, who are both looking a little bit sheepish as she leaves, and just kind of grabs your hand and just says, "Come, Phillipe," and starts dragging you away.
As she's dragging him away, I assume she's like bursting out like the school doors and everything, like.
Oh yeah, like she's
marching
properly,
away.
yeah, stampeding through this building.
And like, you know, Philippe's gonna be like holding on for dear life because she's, you know, knowing Auntie, she's probably like storming off full speed, and little Phillipe, his legs are struggling to keep up, but he's like sort of like skipping along, trying to not fall behind, and he's just gonna sort of tug at her while she's putting him along, but like, Auntie, I'm sorry, I just couldn't help myself.
I think she looks angry, but you see her take a deep breath and take a moment to compose herself. And then, like, she looks down at you with this big, like, grin on her face. She's like, "Oh, don't you worry about that, dear. Oh, they're a shit school anyway. We'll get you a proper education. Just you see." And, yeah, she starts, like, you start heading back to her house, which is a small cottage on the outside of town. While you are walking with her, you realize that she has a bit of paper in her other hand. It's a scroll that is loose and you can read it, and the most prominent piece of information on it is that it says fine 200 gold pieces. How much do you think you like kind of like integrate yourselves into like the money making of the household?
I mean, like, Phillipe would know that they're not exactly the most well-off family, especially given the fact it's just him and his auntie, and Phillipe was kind of just like put on her. You know, so he wasn't an expected expense that she would have. So he knows she's not the most well off. Like, it's enough to get by, but that's about it.
like, and this is obviously you can change this if you want, but I kind of like in my notes just kind of thought that maybe she has like a couple of sheep and she knits blankets in the winter to make a meager living, but it's not a huge amount that you can make in.
Yeah, I mean, it would basically be like basic peasant, odd crafts, and that's about it. You know.
Yeah. So Auntie Lenora takes you home, and like that evening kind of like just comes and goes. There's a little bit of like a hostile atmosphere, but it's not really targeted at you. Like you can like, you know, maybe Auntie Lenora like stomps around the house muttering to herself a little bit as she makes dinner or whatnot. How does Phillipe sort of like deal with Aaand?
Phillipe will probably, you know when kids like they realize that they've done something a bit bad and they're like trying to do the little things to make it up. So
Yeah.
you know, being like constantly asking, "Do you want some water? Do you want this?" And like,
Can you do some tea?
yeah, coming with like a little bit of tea and like some shitty daisy that he's picked out from outside and put it in like this tiny little mug with no water. It's just like a daisy sitting in a mug, but that's the vase. That's like a bit of extra decoration.
I think that like your auntie takes all of these in stride. Like, you know, she's always like, "Oh yes, I would love a glass of water," and then like, you know, you disappear and when you come back you see that she's put water in the mug with the daisy in it. Like, you know, she's used to this. Like, this anger is not targeted at Phillipe, even though he is kind of in the wrong. Like she's like just targeting this anger at whatever she can apart from Phillipe.
I love this family dynamic. I can't wait until she dies.
So yeah, the evening comes and goes, and in the evening you get a little bit of a, like, you know, it's bedtime, lights out, whatever, and you get a knock on your window.
Hello? And Philippe's just gonna sort of peek around the sort of curtains and just see who's outside the window.
Outside the window is a girl you recognize. Her name is Helene. Her title is Helene of the Night, although that is a self-given title, not realizing the connotations behind it because she's a little bit young. She's a young elven woman who works with a thieves guild that operates around Tayvale. She once found you sketching in the gallery of Tayvale, so you were like, you know, copying a painting on the wall, and then like paid you to duplicate a work, and that's kind of like how Phillipe got into the criminal scene. So this has always been a contact for you, but more importantly, she's been you've been a contact for her whenever she needs to commit an art heist. She's short for an elf with like a shaven bald head and a septum ring. She's quite mischievous in nature, but like she's been very sweet to you, although you do maybe consider her to talk down to you occasionally. She's kind of like, "Oh, hey Phillipe, is it past your bedtime?"
Helene, I don't know if this is the best time. I got in a bit of trouble at school and we're in a bit of a pickle.
Yeah, I know you got in trouble. Like, I was around the militia this evening, and I heard that you and your auntie got a fine. Is that right?
Big fine. Not. Do you have something for me then? Do you have some sort of job, baby?
The second you say, "Do you have something for me?" like this huge wicked smile comes on her face, and you can tell that she does. Yeah. Like, this is the exact reason she's here. She's like, "Look, yeah, I got something," and she kind of like pulls a scroll out of her bag, and she's like, "You know, the captain of the guild, he kind of wanted this one, but you know, me and you, we go way back, and I heard you needed the money, and you know, I kind of swiped this. Do you want it?"
Oh yeah, I would be interested. I need to make it up to Auntie. I've really mucked up this time, and she's done so much for me, and I don't know. And Philippe's gonna like, take like, I assume Helene's holding out the scroll.
Yeah, she kind of goes like, say no more," and she just like hands it over to you, and then she kind of like hops out the window. She's like, "Well," stretches in the like evening night, and goes, "I'll see you later. See you around. Take care."
Bye bye.
Stretches in the evening night.
Which is it?
Do you mean
can't
the
tell the
night
time.
air?
Clocks haven't been invented yet.
Okay.
Guys, my job's hard. Stop it.
And Philippe's just gonna like wave.
Yeah, and so you're left with this scroll. is just an old, worn-looking scroll with a red wax seal that has been broken, because obviously it was intended for someone else who has read it, marked with letters T and C in the wax. And with that, we are going to cut to Faelark.
Oh, gee.
Ooh.
So, I think that, like, we get this, like, panning shot of quite a boggy-looking forest. It's a marshlands. It is, in fact, an area called the marshlands in the world. And there is a carriage coming down the one well-paved road through this area. It is quite a lavish-looking carriage. You know, it's got, like, proper, like, trimming of, like, gold-painted, like, wood. It's designed to look fancier than probably it cost, but it is definitely a good-looking vehicle. And then a little bit further down the road, we see Faelark. What does Faelark look like?
Faelark is a young-looking half-elf man. He looks a little unkept in some ways. His hair's perhaps a little too long in places, and I think his eyes are a little bit tired, a little bit ragged looking. But he's dressed quite extravagantly, in clothes that don't quite suit him because they look way above his pay grade considering his physical appearance. He's wearing a sort of a gilded sort of jacket, tight, well-fitted pants, and a long pair of boots, topped off with a quite gaudy tricorn hat, and a few wildflowers poking out from the locks of his hair.
What are you doing at the side of the road?
Faelark is sort of observes the caravan trundling onwards. What's it being pulled by the way?
We're gonna go with a pair. Let's go with a pair of like reasonably looking, healthy horses.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going too fast, I'll say. They're not going they're not galloping through the area. They're going at like a semi alright pace. You will know as Faelark that they're coming into town right now. You are nearby a lumber town by the name of Milton,
mm-hmm.
that they are going to probably make a stop in. So they're kind of winding down. The hard stretch of road is behind them, and they're beginning to kind of like calm a little bit.
Okay. How long have I got until it actually arrives?
You from where you are, you've had a vantage point to watch them for maybe 5-10 minutes. They'll be on you at some time, so you've had time to prepare, but they're going to be on you somewhat soon.
Okay. In which case,
that was the sound of someone looking at a spell list.
You'll hear that plenty.
Yeah, got a lot of casters.
Okay, at which point, Faelark ducks back behind the cover of the trees and pulls on the dark purple bandit's mask that he had stuffed into his jacket's inner pocket. Sort of it only really covers the top of his face, obviously, but it's part of the look.
Here's a really important question. Do your ears pop out of it? You are an elf, so obviously you got naturally... Well, you're half-elf, aren't you? So you'll have pointed ears to a point.
Aye. Yeah, to a point.
Fucking awful.
Yes, he does have pointed ears. He's wearing this hat and also has sort of wavy black hair, not to mention the flowers poking out, so it's kind of like you got a look, you know?
Yeah.
They don't stick out like, it's not like you'd walk through the street and go, that's an elf.
Okay.
You would see them after like actually looking closely at him for a second. Not hidden, but not evident.
The carriage is getting closer at this point. It's maybe on the same stretch of road that, as this tree that you're now hiding behind.
So with the mask secured, he pulls out a wand, which is basically a small bent twig, which the sort of quote unquote handle of which is adorned with some red ribbons and beads and such, and with a sort of with a downcasting motion, he casts Fog Cloud.
This just, I believe Fog Cloud just makes like an obscuring mist, correct?
20-foot radius sphere of fog.
I think it kind of like seeps out quite suddenly, you know? It's not like it's it definitely moves rather than just being like suddenly you're in a block of fog.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that kind of spooks the horses, you know, like you get like the and then they sort of like start to like back a little bit. They slow and and they stop, and you can hear the rider, like the driver of the carriage, being like, "Easy girls, easy girls. Oh, the fog's running in thick."
I'm gonna roll up and try and I'm gonna go for a sneak.
Give me that roll, the stealth roll.
Okay, so stealth is just plus my dexterity modifier.
Correct.
Oh, that's a 21.
Oh, nice. You silently move through this area. Like, it's like a dance to you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You have, like, maybe you've been along the stretch road waiting for this carriage for an hour or so. You know exactly where every twig, everything is, and you gracefully, like, step over all of them. And you find yourself at, well, are you aiming to rob the residence? There will be, you know, there are two people in the carriage, like a lord and lady of the city of Daleen up in the north.
Mm-hmm.
Their cargo will probably be on top of the carriage behind the rider, while they are probably in the carriage itself.
The plan was to unshackle the horses.
Oh, okay, yeah, for certain that's something you can do.
For flavour, can I just, like, say I prestidigitation the latch open or something?
Yeah, like, you just sort of, like, flick your wand, and there's, like, a gentle clink, like, inaudible to anyone except you. You're listening for it. You can't hear above the sound of the horses.
I'm going to roll animal handling and get them to run.
You will not need to make an animal handling check for that.
Okay.
Like, a loud noise will spook them. You know, you just need to, like, yeah, or anything.
Smack them.
Yeah, give him a smack.
Yeah. You crack, and these horses, they bolt. Like, they're just gone. And the driver's like, what's there? Who's there?
I was hoping he'd go with them.
He's not on the horses.
He is actually a horse as well.
Yeah, the entire time we realised that one of them was actually a centaur.
And his name was Bojack.
In that case, Faelark sort of clears his throat and still not sort of keeping himself hidden out of this guy's line of sight. Maybe he's like pressed, just sort of crouched down next to the carriage. It's like, "Stand down, good sir. I'd hate for any unnecessary harm to come about your person."
You kind of like hear like this hesitation. Like, he's like, you know, that moment where anybody would have this moment of, "Do I be the brave man here?" Before he kind of like just says, "Hold your horses. I'll back away." And he just, you hear him dismount the carriage quite slowly, and he starts to, you know, bolt. Like, you know, he dismounts slowly and then just sprints off into the fog.
Okay, that would better
Never
expected.
to be seen again.
You will know that someone like making good pace will take 20 minutes or so to get to town on foot here, so you still have plenty of time to do robbery. Like 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back.
Oh, good. I like to have plenty of time to do robbery.
Don't like to be rushed.
Yeah. Using minor illusion, I'm going to make the sound of... I'm going to make sort of like the sounds of thunder and lightning from outside of the carriage.
Yeah.
Is it very, very frightening?
Well, I hope so. I might have to roll for that.
No, like, you hear like you know, you hear a woman's voice from the carriage being like, "Oh, darling, what was that dreadful noise?" She's like, "Just the thunder, dear."
Great, that's fine. Now I'm not the only one doing a silly voice.
I'm the GM. I have to do 1,000 silly voices.
And he would have done them even if he wasn't the GM.
Yeah, exactly.
In which case, I'm going to sort of standing to the side of the carriage door. Faelark's going to flick the latch and fling the door open. Another prestidigitation, making a loud sort of cracking noise.
Mm-hmm. And there's definitely like a scream from the woman when that happens. The door opens to like a halfling man and woman, and like, you know, the halfling man is like kind of like standing in front of his wife and like trying to like protect her. He's like, "What do you want, sir?"
You have the illustrious honour of being held up by the great villain Faelark. Now hand over your valuables and escape with your lives, or lay down here and die in the dirt.
Give me an intimidation check.
Yep. That is a plus charisma. That is a 14.
Okay. But like
that's not good. But
there's the guy, like the man. He kind of like puffs out his chest for a second, and then he's like, "Okay, please don't hurt us, the valuables," or like, and he kind of like he lifts up a carpet in the carriage, and there is like a hatch that he opens up, and there is a lockbox underneath it, and he's like, "That's everything, I swear. Please don't hurt me or my wife. We have kids, sir."
I mean, I believe they're wearing clothes. Unless we caught them mid-coitus.
Oh boy.
No.
Roll.
Roll for dong size.
Oh, that's all too common a phrase.
I nearly drowned.
I feel like a D10 would be good for that. Each one being an inch.
They are fully dressed.
Oh, 4. He's a halfling. It's one of my feats. I can check. I've got sort of like an innate dong sense.
Dong psychic.
Is 4 inches good for a halfling?
I don't know.
How tall is he?
Guys, Tom, could you just fucking rob them, please?
I have a Tolkien encyclopedia. I'll check.
How did we get
Can
here?
you rob them, please?
So quickly.
Okay. So seeing the guy lay open his crown jewels, Faelark's just sort of like with his wand still raised in their direction, probably fizzing slightly with.
Jesus Christ.
You did that on purpose and you fucking don't. I'm actually crying.
Things I didn't though. I'm willfully ignorant of this. His magical implement still raised. He sort of Faelark takes a couple of careful steps into the carriage and runs his fingers through the jewels, and sort of eyes the two of them and goes, "Very good, thank you, and good day."
He like at this point, like you get halfway through that line maybe before you hear "Caca" coming from behind you, like an obviously faked bird call in a voice you definitely recognize.
Okay. Faelark just sort of freezes for a second before kind of rolling his eyes and getting a grip around. Is it a chest they're holding this stuff in?
It's a lockbox. A lockbox,
So,
you know,
yeah,
it's not a huge thing, but
takes the lockbox sort of under his left arm and says, "Thank you, good sir, good madam, and enjoy the rest of your journey, why don't you?" And then sort of stepping backwards until he's sort of back into the fog.
You kicked their horses away.
Hey, they can walk. How do you think I got
You're
here?
doing them
okay.
a service by making them do some exercise, you know?
Yeah,
Because
the
that's a
rich are
concept.
fat.
They are.
Faelark steps back into the fog and after a few seconds, "Caca!"
like I will say that this is not a normal thing for Fitzpatrick to do. He has never before come out to the site of a job, but sure enough, you know, you like leave a bit of the fog, and Fitzpatrick is there. He is a gnomish gentleman. He's kind of like early 20s, but he looks really quite old for his age, like very tired. He has like this droopy mop of ginger hair and a bunch of freckles, and he wears like a very loose-fitting tunic and a tie that's loose.
Honestly, just sounds like me.
It does.
And he has like he's looking really nervous, like he's hiding behind a bunch of trees, like looking around them nervously, and you see that he has got on the crudest bandit mask you've ever seen. He looks like he's just ripped a pink shirt or something like that and poked 2 holes in it, and he's got that tied around it. This looks nothing like the Fitzpatrick that you kind of know.
So Faelark kind of motions with his wand to like move a bit deeper into the woods before the two eventually stop. I guess.
I think when you gesture, he kind of nods and makes like a sort of like a series of like pseudo military hand gestures that mean nothing, and then like kind of rolls a little bit and then starts running to the spot you gestured to.
Again, Faelark kind of sighs and heads over in his direction as he gets closer, whispering, "And what's with the bird noises?"
It's a signal, right? It's established thieving. I don't know. I'm new to this. Faelark, people were asking. There's questions. There's guards in town. Is everything all right here?
Everything's fine. I've got the box.
And I've got a headache. He kind of looks. He looks at you, and he looks so tired. And he's like, I can't lose this job, and you know, we got a deal going on. I get a bit of what you take, and I let you have a peek at the caravan registry. And I let you have a little peek at the carriage registry that's coming through the trade route, and you know, it's a good deal.
It's a very lucrative deal, virtually risk-free. I don't see what your objection is.
They were asking questions. That is not risk-free.
Everybody.
Have you heard anything about the robberies, Mr. Fitzpatrick? And I'm like, no. And then they're like, sure you haven't heard anything about the robberies? You work on the fucking road.
I mean, a lot of people work on the road. Why do you think they're so... You think you're the only person they're asking questions at?
You've got to get better at lying than that, Fitzpatrick.
He kind of looks at you and goes, look, this deal, it will last, it will stick, but I need you to take a breather on the road. And at this point, he pulls out a scroll. A piece of worn-looking brown parchment with a red wax seal on it that marks the letters T and C. And he holds out to you. He says, some guy came, he was talking about finding the bandit, and he came to me about it, which is another problem, by the way, that someone knew that I was your contact, and I don't understand how that works, but anyway. Oh, boy. Oh, this just makes my headache worse. This is for you. It's a job. I recommend you take it, and we part ways for a little bit, buddy.
Faelark takes the scroll and sort of looks at it for a moment, and judges that he obviously doesn't recognise the wax seal. A bit after a second, sort of casts a slanted eye towards Fitzpatrick and says, "Take a break from the road. You do remember why we both got into this in the first place, right? What the whole point of our exercise is?"
He kind of looks at you and goes, "Honestly, not really. I just wanted the money, and I need time to breathe, Faelark."
You just wanted the money, and so you don't care about the others. You've forgotten. Right, fine. He opens up the
kind of like when you say that, he's kind of like, "No, don't be like, never mind. I can't talk to you when you get like this." And then he just sort of
it's fine. I understand. He reaches into the lockbox and thrusts a fist in and sort of chucks. What's he chuck towards him? What's in there?
I will say it's like an assortment of like necklaces. It's probably like a quite fancy jewelry box.
Yeah, he just throws a sort of discriminate hand of jewelry towards him and says, "If that's what you want, then I can walk away and find another way of doing this thing."
I think like a lot of it kind of scatters around the dirt around like his feet. He picks up some of it, but like obviously in a way that he's
sure he'll manage.
He's trying his hardest to not like to preserve his like pride a little bit here, and he kind of looks and goes, "Look, we'll talk about this later. Good luck to you, buddy. I'm serious. I mean it."
Yes, well, good luck to you too, I suppose. But clearly kind of sneering, and without saying anything else, he just starts walking off into the tree line.
Yeah, and Fitzpatrick turns like I think Fitzpatrick looks over his shoulder, kind of hoping that you do the same, but it never happens, and kind of dejectedly walks back towards Malton. Oh, I didn't see you there. Hi everybody, Future Luke here. Hope you're enjoying our first episode of Whack-A-Roll Vagabonds. We want to take a quick breather to do some shoutouts and to plug our social medias. Firstly, and most importantly, we want to give a huge thank you to all the friends and family who helped us by listening to our test episodes. This has been a lot of work, and we really couldn't have done it without all of you lovely people. As a thank you, I have named a handful of characters after our test listeners that will be showing up later in the campaign. Next up, we want to take this time to plug our social medias. If you want to get in touch with us here at Whack-A-Roll, whether it's to say you like what we're doing or point out all the rules we've forgotten, you can do so in a number of ways. Firstly, you can email us at whackaroll@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at whackaroll on both of those. We will be naming a bunch of NPCs after people who get in touch with us via any platform, so if you want to be immortalized in podcast form, now's your chance. Lastly, please feel free to leave us positive or negative reviews wherever it is you've got this podcast. Listener engagement is really, really important to new podcasts, and any help you can give us would be absolutely amazing. We'd super appreciate the support. With that, I'm going to let you all get back to the podcast. Thank you again for listening. And with that, we cut to Yaga.
Yay!
We're starting to scene maybe 5 days ago, and Al, could you please describe Yaga's hut? And Yaga, of course.
Well, Yaga's hut is basically just completely ramshackle. It's the bare necessities of what she needs to live. There is a door that does not have a hinge. It just sits against the hole in the stones that are piled on top of one another with a thatch roof. There is a fire inside and a cot that she can sleep in, and that's basically it. She spends most of her time not in her hut. Yaga is, well, she's an old human woman. She has leathery skin and very thick, bony knuckles. Dark grey, like, wiry hair that she just let grow indiscriminately. The kind of woman where you'd look at her and say, look at that old woman. She generally dresses herself in a cowl or a long cloak just to cover herself, and walks with a stoop that she does not have.
Okay. I think that, like, you know, we're setting this 5 days ago because you hear a cry in the sky, a hawk, and this big brown bird kind of like lands on this open door that you were talking about, and has a note around its leg, and it's definitely a bird that you recognize.
Okay. I stroke the bird and take the note.
It happily accepts the stroke, and you take the note off.
I want a bird.
And it is, of course, an order for the sort of thing that you sell. We talked about this scene briefly, but would you consider the captain to be a friend or just like an acquaintance?
Oh, a friend, like a good acquaintance. I wouldn't invite them round to my house, but I'd have a pint with them.
Yeah. So, you get this note, and then we kind of like fast forward 5 days later. And what are you doing around the time that you know that the captain is going to be rolling into town?
Jeez. I suppose I'm waiting at my hut as usual. Mm-hmm. Like, I'd rather be in the city, like, trying to make money, but, you know, if I know the captain's coming my way, let's be scarce.
And after a certain point, you hear, I think actually you see them before you hear them. Like, you see a carriage in the distance coming up from the coast, and it is led by a short and stout turtle lady. Turtles, for those of us who are uninitiated, are turtle people and are fantastic. They
are great.
Yep. She has dark green scales and this weathered and chipped shell on her back. She's wrapped in a very pale blue cloak and walks with the aid of a really old looking trident, with this warp oaked shaft and an almost like golden like tip to it. She is decked out in all manner of trinkets. Like, she's got like some like colored beads that dangle around her neck, rings on all of her fingers, and a stylish tri-cornered hat that only rivals Faelark's. When like behind her, is a carriage. There's a couple other members of her crew on it, and it is being like dragged by this bright orange six-legged lizard. that is sort of like scuttling along with this carriage being hauled behind it. When she sees you outside your shack, she raises her trident up and waves quite excitedly, like she's a slow-moving lady, and that's the fastest she's moved is this wave.
Nice. I wave back, just, like your gran waves to you when you're going to her house.
So
That's a good image.
Captain Shawley arrives, and she kind of like, she doesn't like hug, but she kind of like opens her arms in that sort of like hugging motion. It's like, Yaga, it's been too long.
Yes, we do not hug, but I grab her arms and we like hold hands together.
Yes.
And I say, it's only as long as you seem, because of the speed that you walk at.
And she like laughs her head off at that. Like, it's like the funniest thing. It might even be like one of these jokes where you say it every time you see her, but she still finds it the funniest thing.
It's
Sounds
never
like
not
she'd have a
funny.
heart attack if she laughed that much.
Yeah, and she kind of like looks to her, like, the boys in the carriage, and kind of like waves them, and she says, "Come, let me sit for a while. These old bones, they don't do so well in the journey these days."
There's like a old rotten wood bench just at the side of my front door.
The sort of bench.
Ain't no one coming inside.
Yeah, it's the sort of bench that looks like it would collapse at any second, but for some reason over like the last 20 years or so, it just hasn't.
Magic.
Yeah, and like she creaks onto it. The bench groans under her like weight, and then she just kind of gives you this old smile and says, "Have you got what I asked for?"
What did she ask for?
Yaga, like, I think that's you actually. Sorry.
Do I?
The note probably just said the usual. She's such a frequent customer to you that you know what she wants.
Right.
The good kush.
Jolly.
Basically.
And I think like she's kind of whispering this to you, like the "Have you got what I want?" So that her crew doesn't know, but she orders her seasickness medicine from you. Mm-hmm. Most pirate captains don't exactly want their crew to know that they suffer from seasickness, so she does it a little bit on the DL.
I've got your usual prescription, dear, but I couldn't get any extras this time. Fine well, I have to wait a wee while before I go back into that city.
She's like, "I understand," and kind of like she pulls out with her shaky like claw, she pulls out like a small brown like coin sack that has the usual price in it of, let's say, 5 gold.
Oh yay!
Mm-hmm.
Let's add that to my little notebook.
And she kind of like stashes the the concoctions into her jacket, and then she kind of looks at you and goes, "So business has not been good recently, has it, my dear?"
Well, every so often, just to be careful, I have to take wee breaks now and then. Because, the aristocracy get a wee bit wise to my plan, you see.
And she kind of nods and she goes, yes, not all of us have the luxury of the open seas to hide our deeds. And then kind of she smiles a little bit, and then she goes, "Actually, I might have something to help you with that." And she pulls out a scroll, pale brown parchment with a red wax seal, and she kind of like places it on the bench between you. She goes, "We were approached to do this, but it's not really our sort of thing. There's certainly money in it if that's what you need."
Well, I certainly wouldn't sniff at the opportunity for a wee bit more pocket money. Mm-hmm. I take the thing and I read it.
Okay, and because you're of course the last person to gain the note, we can actually read it this time. The notice reads, "To those willing to bend the law, I have the need for a particular set of skills that most frown upon. For now, I must keep the details close to my chest, for which I apologize. However, I promise a reward of 300 gold pieces on completion. If you are interested, meet at the bar of the Spiral Inn, October 15th at 10 p.m. precisely. There's a round table near the bar. I've marked it with a small X. Sit there and I will contact you." And then it's marked TC at the bottom.
It's very interesting how we use the Gregorian calendar here, isn't it?
Okay, sorry, it says the 58th of Demarthia.
Oh, Demarthia is my favourite month.
No, that's it. Like, 1 second.
Lousy smart weather.
Yeah. Did I say 58th?
Yeah.
There we go. I have now officially put that down.
Great.
It says Demarthia 58th at 10 p.m. precisely.
That's the problem with world building. You always forget something until it actually happens.
Hate you all. Yep, and she goes, "It is an interesting proposition, is it not?"
I'd like to know more details, but I'm intrigued. I will give this a wee look.
She nods, and then she kind of looks to her carriage and says, "Well, it's been a pleasure, dear. Take care of yourself."
As always, and yourself.
She says, "We have a cargo that needs delivering." And then she, like, when she says cargo, she winks at you, a really slow wink. And then she kind of, like, groans as she stands up with the help of her trident. And she and her boys take off, heading off into, like, the plains and towards the city of Daleen.
I love these dope grannies.
Yeah.
It just makes me think of the biker grannies from Monty Python. Like, but pirates.
Oh my
Yeah, I was
God.
thinking that. Hell's
I love
grannies.
them.
Okay. So,
Make tea, not war.
okay. So the mission here that you've been given is to meet at an inn in the north of Tayvale. It's a very well known pub. In
I have a long way to travel.
Well, I mean, for some people, yes, but for Al especially, we've given the longest travel to the oldest person.
I mean, she fine. I can be a deer.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, do you guys go straight there? How do you guys deal with the time you've got to get there?
I mean, Phillipe is... Like, he would probably have to give some sort of excuse to his aunt as to why... Like, how far away is the place from Phillipe?
It's the city you live in, dear.
Oh, okay. Right, cool. I forgot I lived there. Sure, Phillipe is off to the park with some friends.
Oh, that's the excuse you're giving.
That's his
he
excuse.
has
No,
friends.
Phillipe doesn't have friends, but that's his excuse. He tells his auntie when he wants to go off somewhere else.
Faelark is he'll walk the road for a while and eventually try and hitchhike on a kind of passing kind of merchant's wagon or whatever else. Basically, like, he'll travel around by doing odd jobs for travelers.
I
and
think
things.
there's a really good shot of maybe, like, you know, you're walking along the side of the road, you stick your thumb out, realize it's the carriage you just robbed in the intro, kind of duck your head to the side, they drive straight past you, and like, just like, yeah, but yeah, you make it to town pretty quickly, and then Yaga.
I'm gonna deer it. I'm gonna run.
Yeah. At one point, I think that maybe, like, you know, a carriage with Faelark sitting on the back of it trundles past a deer prancing through, like, a meadow, trying to, like going pretty fast towards the city. Just, I like that image. And the 58th comes around. God, I'm going to have to pay attention to that.
What date was it when we started traveling?
I'll say that, you know, maybe it takes 12 days to travel down south, so that would be the 46th.
Okay.
This is going to kill me in the long run. Oh, I didn't see you there. Again, you've got to stop sneaking up on people like that. Thank you so much for listening to our first episode of Whack-A-Roll. We're super happy with how it turned out. We just want to take this opportunity to once again remind you all that you can get in touch with us via email at wackaroll@gmail.com or on Twitter and Instagram at wackaroll. There are no hyphens in any of those. If you do, no matter what your message is, there's a chance we'll read it out on an episode or even name an upcoming NPC after you, and trust me, there are going to be a lot of NPCs that need naming. So you guys donating your names to me helps me out a lot because it means I can be a little bit lazier. Once again, thank you all for listening, and we will see you in 2 weeks with episode 2. Bye-bye.